People don't realize there's a cause to the action. They just see the action. So if somebody's having marital issues at home and they're only at 50% of their ability at work, you're sitting here going, hey, let's push this guy. Let's get him moving. And actually, work's not the issue. His ability is not the issue. The 50% is an issue. When we solve for the symptom, we don't actually fix the problem. So we get on his case and Sam, you got to work harder, and it goes right back into it. Or we pop Sam on a pip. Sam's sitting there fighting for his life, both in his marriage and in his business, and they both fail.
You're listening to The Uncertainty Edge, the show about the art and science of moving forward when the path isn't clear. I'm your host, Sam Sivarajan. Each episode, I sit down with leaders, advisors, and thinkers to explore how they navigate uncertainty, make better decisions, and stay focused in a world that rarely cooperates. Together, we'll look for the clarity hidden inside uncertainty. Welcome to The Uncertainty Edge. I'm your host, Sam Sivarajan. Today, I'm joined by Matt Granados, CEO and founder of Life Pulse, Inc., a productivity coach and speaker who spent over 14 years helping high performers achieve optimal results without burning out. Matt worked with everyone from Google and Twitter to financial advisors and professional athletes, teaching what he calls truth-based transformation, a process where truth leads to tension and tension leads to real change. But here's the twist. Matt challenges the conventional wisdom that success requires relentless speed and sacrifice. Instead, he argues we're operating in what he calls an inefficiency epidemic, where most people function at only 40 to 60% of their capability because they're confusing high performance with optimal performance. For financial advisors managing client expectations, executives navigating organizational pressure, and anyone trying to build something meaningful without losing themselves in the process, Matt offers both a wake-up call and a roadmap for sustainable excellence. Matt, welcome to the show.
Sam, I appreciate you having me. I do a lot of these interviews, a lot of speaking. That could be one of the best introductions I've ever gotten. So I might need to steal that and bring that to some of these people. But that was fantastic. Excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will send an invoice for royalties in the mail. So
I'll pay it. It was that good. No, it just what happens is what we do is so unique, but it's not new. It's just breaking it back down to the foundations of how humans work. And you pointed it out perfectly. It's not that we have an ability problem. We aren't lacking abilities. We're lacking an understanding of what fulfillment needs. And that's the key to that truth-based transformation. We create productivity by showing people how to experience fulfillment in wherever they are. And that's one of the main foundational points of what we do. So you knocked it out of the park. We could end the interview now. You got it all, but excited to get into some questions.
I want to dig in a little bit more on it because I think there's some interesting nuggets in what you've said and what you do that I think will be very relevant for our audience.
Awesome.
But let me start by finding out a bit more about you and getting you to share. So you've built your career, as I said in the introduction, helping high performers, everything from Fortune 500 companies and their leaders to professional athletes, navigating this gap that we're talking about between success and fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious about your own journey, Matt. What led you to found this company? And was there a specific moment or experience that made you realize that the conventional approach to high performance was fundamentally broken?
Yeah. So I grew up as a self-growth junkie. I love self-growth, right? And the reason I loved it was the only way I could understand something is how do I learn with implementation in mind? Call it whatever learning disability you want. I had the dyslexia. I captured all of the letters behind my name in high school, not after college, right? So they're not letters you want. Letters after your name in college and grad school is impressive. Before, they're called disabilities, right? So one of the things I had to learn to do was how do I learn? And I learned by going, what's Sam teaching me and how do I apply it? That's how I comprehend things, right? I don't just listen to Sam's story and think of how is it there. So in this situation, Life Pulse was created unintentionally, ironically enough, because we're all about intention. We had a system that I created for myself to protect myself from myself. As a typical entrepreneur, my ideas are everywhere. In that system is how I would process my week. My wife, when we got married, said, "Hey, I knew marrying you was going to be hard, but I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. Like, you're insane." And she's like, "How do you process everything in your head?" And my wife is way more capable, way more intelligent, way more better. Like, she hits every category above me, which is good. That's how I know I picked the right one. And with that, she said, "How do you do this?" I was like, "Well, there's these 9 questions I asked myself." And she asked me if she could use it. And I still say it's the sexiest thing anyone's ever said to me, outside of when she said, "Yes, she'll marry me," is like, "You want to use my system? Like, let's go." So we went,
Yeah.
put it together. I showed it to her. It was in a composition book, like pen and paper. And she's like, "Let me make this look a little nicer." She made it look nice. I really liked it. So I got a pallet of them built and sent before they were even fully proofread. So when it goes to the pace and how I work versus my wife works, right? I act and then I think and figure out what I did wrong. That's why the system was so necessary for me. Once I gave it to my wife, I brought it into my business, gave it to my assistant, I gave it to our sales rep, our warehouse people. And what I realized was I didn't know a thing about the people who I'm supposed to be leading. I thought I knew, but I didn't know what they wanted. I didn't know what they were interested in. I didn't know where they were trying to go. All I knew is they better show up to get paid. And that was how I was running the business. Once I got to understand who they are through the first 3 questions in particular, but these next 9 or next 6 equal 9 total, all of a sudden I got a phone call from a large financial institution, one of the largest in the world, up out of Boston, closer to you a little bit. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, we can't connect our corporate desired metrics with our individual's desired lifestyle, and your system bridges the gap." So I went in and we walked through everything we do. And at the end of it, they were like, "Are you going to invoice us?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" They're like, "Well, don't you do this for a living?" And I was like, "No, I have another business that has nothing to do with this. This is just a system we use." And they said, "Oh, they thought we were a consultant. They didn't, they were just, hey, you're going to have a conversation. We'll talk." I said, "So now I need a day of your time." So I sat there and said, "Walk me through what problems are we solving?" And they said that exact thing is people. We don't know how to deal with the people the way we used to. I said, "How'd you used to deal with it?" Like, "Oh, we throw them some more money, they go away." Now what happens? They're like, "We throw them some more money and they come back 3 weeks later and they're still not satisfied."
Mm-hmm.
This system fixes that. I said, "All right, this is great. Is this a problem only you have?" They say, "No, this is a problem that everyone will have in the next 10 years. That was in 2017. Give 2018, roll into 2019, bring us to 2020. COVID hits. Our system becomes the anchor to keep companies together. One of the reasons why is it brings the human aspect of it, not just the employee aspect, right? I always say you're a person who is a professional, not a professional who's acting as a person. So we want to focus on the root. From that led to Google, Twitter, the Air Force Academy, large airports all over the world. Things like that started popping into as an opportunity. And they were all bringing different issues to me, right? One had workload issues, one had management issues, one had time management issues, one had communication issues. And I would offer the exact same system. And what I found was companies and the majority, even the listeners on here,
Mm-hmm.
were failing to solve these problems because we're coming up with symptomatic solutions. Symptomatic solutions, for example, is if I were to break my arm and I said, "Sam, my arm really hurts. What do I do?" And the bone's sticking out. You're like, "Oh, your arm's broken." I say, "Give me some painkillers so I can get back to work." And you give me painkillers, you solve the symptom, you did not solve the cause.
Right.
What needs to happen is you need to set the bone back, which takes a little bit more effort on your part. It's a little more painful for everybody. But then when you set it properly, the body will heal itself. People are the exact same way. When you set it properly, humans will heal themselves. And that's what we've come to find, whether it was with the Google or whether it was with the solo entrepreneur, whether it was with the financial companies we've worked with, the individual financial experts, or the actual team, the pods, whatever you want to call it. We have found one of the biggest issues is that individuals try to solve for the, and we take the symptom, find the root cause, and that's what we address. And we equip the people on the team or the coaching client we're working with on how they can bridge the gap themselves.
So, Matt, on that, that's a pretty powerful metaphor that you use about the broken arm and the treating the symptoms versus the cause. So, in your experience, is this a lack of awareness of what the cause is and the idea that treating the symptoms is going to solve the problem? Or is there something else more going on that, for example, it's easier to solve the symptoms from a profit orientation, from
Yeah.
solving a problem today because we've got work to do tomorrow? What's going on here that there seems to be this tendency to solve the symptoms and not the cause?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of an issue with awareness, an issue with margin, and an issue with actual genuine care. Let me
Okay.
walk through those three things, right? Awareness, meaning people don't realize there's a cause to the action. They just see the action. So if somebody's having marital issues at home and they're only at 50% of their ability at work, you're sitting here going, hey, let's push this guy. Let's get him moving. And actually, work's not the issue. His ability is not the issue. The 50% is an issue, but when we solve for the symptom, we don't actually fix the problem. So we get on his case and Sam, you got to work harder. You got to work harder. So what happens? Sam works harder for a week or two, and then it goes right back into it. Or we pop Sam on a PIP. Now Sam's sitting there fighting for his life, both in his marriage and in his business, and they both fail. So like it's a short-term fix, but it's not going to be sustainable.
Right.
So that's the awareness side. The second is the margin. People are too busy. They don't have time, and they're walking through life in a constant rush. What we have worked on with every single person that comes through our system is we give them what we call our LP planner. Those are the 9 questions I talked about earlier. And when people use that system, they report back to get about an average of 15 extra hours of productivity each week. And what happens is you're not as busy as you think you are. That's the first revelation that comes when you use this system. You look at it your day, you're like, I could handle this. But then as you get into it, you then realize, which is going to sound weird, you actually are busier than you think you are when you talk about the size of goals you want. Like your desires are big. And if you want to hit that number, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, whatever that goal is in your organization, there needs to be a realistic understanding of how much time is that going to take.
Right.
And the one thing we can't do is we can't create more time. That's why we call time management a lie, because you can't manage time. You can only choose what you do with the time you have. That's different than managing time. You manage people, you don't manage time. You use time wisely. And that's how we work through this. But those are the 2 things that started. And then the final one is just a lack of care. We have come to devalue the employee because we don't see employees as humans. We see them as employees. We see our coworkers as employees. We saw this through COVID like crazy because everyone was in the little square on the Zoom call. So now you don't even get to experience the person. But here's the key. Right now, what's everybody focusing on? AI. What's AI going to do? AI is going to do what AI is going to do. It is going to make everything more efficient, not necessarily more effective. That's what technology has always done. When the phones came into play, it made things more effective or efficient, not necessarily effective. Efficiency is key, but it needs to be effective as well to be worth it. So here's what's happening with AI. To this point of caring. We want the human creativity. We want the human willingness to think on a dime. We want the human ability to connect with others and bring that relationship that's needed that AI cannot do and never will be able to do the way a human does. It will do a lot of things that humans do. That, because AI doesn't have a soul, that will never replace a human. The problem is now the value of the human is going to increase drastically. Because each one person, if using AI properly, is going to force us and allow us to do 10 times the work per person. It's the same thing when the horse and plow came in. It's the same thing when the calculator came in. It's the same thing when Excel came in. And now it's just the next form of that revolution that happens. So I think as you're navigating these things, we have to realize that care for the people, as you want the creativity, you want the human connection, all that stuff, it comes with the other things. You're not looking for a robot, you're looking for a human. Right. So if you can't understand how to care for them, find a way to make the margin for that, or not willing to be aware of what's actually happening, you'll never be able to function at the optimal level with other humans as you should be able to. And that is what our system brings to you and shows you exactly how to do what you already know you should do.
Interesting. Now, I want to explore what we talked about earlier, Matt, this idea that you talk about, this truth-based transformation. And so for the audience, it's the idea that truth leads to tension and that tension leads to transformation. Can you walk us through what that actually looks like in practice, especially for someone in financial services, for instance, who's been operating at speed for years and suddenly realizes something has to change?
Yeah, so it's another S word. It's not speed, it's sustainable. That's what you need to be at. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be sustainable and fast. I'll explain that in a second. So truth-based transformation, when you're exposed to truth, something happens. You either accept it or you reject it. There's a never like, you can't just ignore it. That's rejecting it. right? So truth happens, you accept or you reject. Those are your choices. When you reject truth, it hurts. Let's talk about the law of gravity. You want to reject it? It hurts, right? Like there's certain things that happen that is true. Now, when you accept truth, it also can hurt, but it's for a short period while you adjust to the truth versus you trying to adjust the truth to you. What we've done in society is we've allowed us as individuals to create our own truth and then put our frame around how we look at the world based on our truth. What we work with people is to show you how to find truth, not truths, because there can't be two truths. Otherwise, there wouldn't be one truth. There's only one. Find truth, let it be in that tension. And our system and our coaching helps you through the tension to experience the transformation. Now, how do we do it? There's three things we do. We expose the gap, we bridge the gap, and we sustain the gap. We talk about gaps as either PPG, personnel performance gaps, if you're working with a whole team, or personal performance gaps, if it's just me. We focus on where are the gaps? Where am I to where I want to go? Exposing that. Okay, I'm very impatient, right? Let's talk about that for some of these fast-paced high performers. I'm very impatient. Okay, well, what do you want to get to? I want to get to patient. Okay, that's the gap. Then we offer a bridge. How are you going to do that? We have different tools that help you across almost any bridge. And we tell people these bridges are not meant to be fulfilled or filled. They're meant to be fulfilled, right? So the bridge is part of the journey. We want to fulfill it, build the bridge so that the gap doesn't block us anymore. After that, we need to sustain. And sustaining is having a duplicatable system that's based on truth that allows you to never have to deal with that gap again because the bridge is already laid. So that's how we go through that and figure out the truth-based transformation. The problem is you have to be willing to see the truth. You have to be open. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready, and you have to be patient, right? Patience is the hardest part. There are two types of people when it comes to the top level of performance. One, I respect. The other is absolutely overrated. I'm going to start with the overrated one. That's called high performance. That's what what do you look for? I'm looking for a high performer. That's what I'm a high performer. All right, let me walk you through what a high performer is. A high performer is high output at an unsustainable pace compared to others. What high performers could do is run a race with a bunch of slow people, come in first, and celebrate that they're the fast person. No, you're just not slow. You run in a race with fast people, now you're in last. So that's not accurate. Optimal performers is where we bring every team, every organization, and every individual client, and that is high output, so the same high output at a sustainable pace compared to your own ability. When we bring teams to understand optimal performance from the CEO all the way down to the entry-level employee, our output is optimal performance. You must be able to hit high numbers at a sustainable pace compared to your own ability. When that's the goal, burnout doesn't happen. We are able to function at a very high pace because what happens is you go from slow to smooth and smooth to fast. So I'm not talking about slowing down per se. I'm talking about sustainability is more important than speed. But once you find sustainability, that's when you bring speed to it because you have a track to run on.
The idea about being aware of the truth, I think that's very powerful, especially when you argue that there's lots of evidence that says that we're living in call it a post-truth world, if you want, right? I mean, whether that's our political debates and discourse, or even on a personal level, we've been taught through all of the social media and influencers to curate the best version of yourself possible, which I feel at least has the unfortunate result or outcome of that you overestimate your abilities. And so a lot of what you're talking about requires the person to honestly evaluate where they are today and to identify that gap. How does that work in practice in this sort of post-truth curated world that we live in?
Yeah, because we're not the creators of truth, just because we choose to live in a post-truth world doesn't mean it's accurate. Again, test of gravity. It's the same story over and over again, right? There's laws of science that lead us to truth. Now, when it comes to what do we do in this situation is you have to be open to whatever the truth is. So the thick-headedness of my opinion is a fact. What I think is right is a problem. We need to even be willing, like when you talk about different philosophers saying question everything, we put that all outwards. We don't take that internal. Question everything means question everything. like my thought right now, am I actually doing what I should be doing? Am I willing to actually analyze and correct myself or hear correction from others and change? That's where we've lost. We've lost the fact that we are so arrogant in our ways.
Mm-hmm.
And me too. I got to check myself every single day on this, that we think what we're doing is always right.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, it's a guess at best, right? Like there might be some data that backs it, but it's still a guess. We are a crazy variable that can change on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you can use the past to predict the future, but you can't use the past to get proof of what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
Because things can change. So I think it comes back to the fact that, are you going to accept living in a post-truth world? And are you going to build your business on post-truth? Because as you're a financial advisor, if you're in that industry, you have to go off of what is true, what is accurate at that time, and knowing it's actually more that you're living your life on facts, not truth. Because truth never changes. Facts can change based on the day, right? Like today, when we're recording it, it's Wednesday. But tomorrow, today is going to be Thursday. So facts can change, if that makes sense. Truth is constant. The truth is that after Wednesday is Thursday. That's the truth. That will never change no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what time it is. But we have allowed ourselves to make decisions on what we consider truth, which are really just facts, when we have to be okay saying, hey, based on the information I have, this is the best decision. The only time we experience proof in this world is when it happens. It's the only time.
So you must see that with everyone that you deal with, whether it's corporate leaders that sit there and tell themselves that the performance is fine, or that the reason that the company is not doing as well as it could is because of tariffs or tax policy or competition. I guess that is one of the key things that you work with, is to help those clients of yours understand what it is that, what is the truth, what is within their control and what is not. I suppose that tariff policy or tax policy or competitors' actions, that those are all factors, and that might be part of the truth, but it doesn't really help the individual deal with the problem at hand.
Yeah, and what I say is that there's a difference between reasons and excuses. And it's
I
not
like that.
the story, it's how you believe it. A reason we are down is because tariffs have messed us up. That's the reason. And excuses, oh, we're down because tariffs have messed us up, there's nothing we can do. Excuses end with the issue. Reasons come with the solution. I'm all about, clients will always come to me with an excuse or a reason. I'll say, hey, is that an excuse or a reason? And they'll go, I don't know. I go, well, do you have a solution for it? Yeah, okay, well, then that's just a reason as to why we didn't do what we were supposed to do. And that's an okay reason, right? Like when COVID came around the world, yeah, we didn't perform. Oh, well, COVID just slowed us down. Well, what did you do? Well, we pivoted our manufacturing to create masks and create gloves. That's a brilliant idea. It's a great reason to do something, not an excuse to blame something. So I think that's the focus of it is, yeah, there's external factors, but I'll relate this to my health journey, my personal health journey. I love biohacking. What's the next best thing to do this, right? All this stuff.
Right.
I got to buy this sauna and this cold plunge and do this and this and this and this. I need to eat properly. So I'm spending all this money and time trying to fix all these other top 20% things where the 80% of the cause I'm not taking any effort into. It's the same issue here. The external issues are not where your focus needs to be, especially if you're in an industry that's impacted industry-wide, because all your competition is hit the same way. The question is, what are we doing internally? That's why the goal is optimal performance, because when you're at an optimal level, you're actually giving all you can. You're doing all you could in that situation within a sustainable pace. If you need to crank it up a little bit, you can, or you can bring it down. But if you're stuck in that high performance mentality and you're grinding out, when it takes time to come back and be strategic, slow down, you don't have that gear anymore. Right. It's like you've locked it into high gear and you can't come back. We come and we do it through self-discovery, where we walk people back to a sustainable model. We have all of our clients, the goal is to get to 80% of capacity with the highest level of efficiency. That is where we find people live a fulfilled life. Once you hit fulfillment, burnout is not possible. Burnout only comes when you're chasing something that you can't get. And that's why we talk about that ICE, I-C-E, intentionality put towards capacity or efficiency. And if you're at 100% capacity and something changes, you're going to go overboard. Yep. But if you stick at 80, You can go up to 100 and come back to 80. You can go down to 60 and come back to 80. But you can't move higher than 100% of your capacity. And that's why people are falling apart.
I love all of that. I think the reasons versus excuses is a very useful and helpful distinction. And the idea that sustainable optimal performance is at 80% leaves the idea that you can go to a higher gear when you need to, but you're not. It's running a car. You're not going to run your car at the highest gear all the time if you want the car and the engine to last for its natural life, right?
If you think about it like compound interest for your guys who are listening, right? Like, do you want a 20% quick jump, or do you want 10%, 5% year after year for the next 10, 15 years?
Correct.
That's the same way that we as humans work. This is what I mean by the universe is built on systems and rhythms. Like, we don't want a short-term burst, because with a short-term burst, there's a short-term decline too.
Right.
What we want is a slow, steady burn. 80% is where we should be. The average person, like you said in the intro, is only at about 40. So when I come in and take people from 40 to 80, while they still feel less stressed because the efficiency level is high, they're all of a sudden going, I'm doing so much more, but I feel like I'm doing so much less. It's because you're not doing the things you're not supposed to do. You're only focusing on the things you are to do. And that is where fulfillment comes in. And that is why our productivity system far surpasses other ones, is because we don't do it with a bunch of tips and tricks. That's not the goal of Life Pulse. We actually find the core cause, we address the core root problem, and then we go in and go, here's what fulfillment feels like. Here's the metrics to know when you're doing this and doing this, you're going to experience fulfillment. Don't let this get out of whack. So it gives people an understanding and awareness to what it's supposed to look like, and they can see when they're getting off track before they hit the bottom.
Now, that's a big claim, Matt. Like the saying that somebody was at 40% of their capability or a capacity, especially at a time when most people would say, look how hard I'm working. I'm 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. What are the signs that someone is actually stuck in that pattern? How do you help identify it? And what's the first step of breaking out of that type of mindset?
Yeah. So first is if you're at 100, if you feel like you're at 100%, the question is, where are you spending your time?
Okay.
And if you're at 100%, but you're pretty up to date on scrolling this thing, you're not at 100% capacity. You're using your capacity foolishly elsewhere. So that metric is, what capacity are they at what they're at work, at what they're doing. So for example, financial advisor, client of ours, we have a lot of financial advisors as clients because time is important and efficiency is important. And the more people you can connect with, the better the results are. And one of the things was, he was like, man, I'm just stuck behind the desk. And when I'm stuck behind the desk, I get online and I scroll and I do this, I do this, I do this. And we just had to pull him out from what was causing him, the reason behind why he wasn't hitting the goal. All of a sudden, he starts realizing, I could get this done in 2 hours a day. It was taking him 8. It takes him 2 because there were so many distractions, so many things he would address that doesn't need to be addressed. We then taught him how to take his business and bring on someone else to delegate effectively, because that task that he liked to do is not a core competency of his that he should be doing. So we've done that in many different financial groups, entire groups, or just the individual advisor themselves. But it's the same exact concept. Why can I make that claim? Is because if you tell me you're at 100% and I honestly take you through the planner and organize where you're spending your time, you're going to be quiet pretty quickly, because it's like the same thing where it's like, I use this for productivity. Let me see your usage. I do it to my clients all the time. Send me a screenshot of your usage on your phone. Oh, 8 hours on social media? I don't think that helps. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And it's very intuitive. And I totally buy that. Obviously, we fool ourselves into thinking that we're busy. So what you're showing is that there's a gap between what we think we're doing and what we want to be doing. That makes total sense. But actually changing behavior, to say to someone you're spending 8 hours a day scrolling on your phone on social media, I think that truth is important for them to see and to act on. But the next day and the day after, when you're tempted to kind of go and scroll on your phone and go into social media, that's where the rubber hits the road. I'm sure you would agree, Matt. How does knowing the truth help do that change in behavior that is so critical to get to that outcome that I think that your client says they want, and you are there to help them get?
Yeah, so it's knowing the truth and then being willing to be accountable. The word accountable we've messed up with. We think it's our job to hold others accountable. No, it's our jobs to be accountable. So when you come in as a client of mine, it's your job to be accountable. It's my job to be there for you and help answer questions. And I will remind you and point you back to what we said we were going to do. What I also do is I don't demonize scrolling through the phone. I don't sit there and go, hey, man, your scrolling through the phone is bad. Scrolling through the phone is not bad. It's bad when you do it instead of what you should be doing. So here's what we're going to do. Before you scroll through the phone, let's make sure A, B, and C are done. After that, have fun. We have clients of ours who are retired. People who literally, they pay us to coach them through retirement because they say the biggest fear of theirs having all the money and having nothing to do is doing nothing with it.
Right.
So we're still coaching them through retirement, which is wild to me. But that's how pervasive this issue is. We as humans are the only animal who will actually self-hurt ourselves, right? Like we will actually hurt ourselves and do things that are not beneficial to us, not long-lasting, not life-bringing. Because of why? We will naturally lead to destruction, left on our own accord. What our system does is brings that truth in front of somebody and says, hey, Sam, I know you're saying you're overwhelmed, but you have 3 things to do tomorrow. Oh, I know, but there's those other 15 things that I want to do. Okay, well, just let's understand this. You don't have to do them. You're choosing to experience overwhelm because of that. That's a choice on how you're taking this. And that's part of how we coach people is, hey, I get that they said that, but you're putting motive behind it. Let's not put motive behind it unless we know it. Those are the type of things that we focus on, right? People who are leading, they run into this issue on a regular basis. And it takes time to go, all right, let's just walk through this for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, 5, 7, 2. Like, can we understand why we're out of order? All right, let's put it in order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does it work better? Yes. And people, when they experience proof, which is in the moment, they then build what I call faith, which is that it will happen again. And faith, I always tell people, faith is not necessarily from religion. Religion came from faith. So take that if you're like annoyed by the word faith and get over it for a second is what I'll say. When I go to sit in a chair, I have faith that chair is going to hold me up. Right. I see 4 legs. I have faith that it's going to happen. So we all have faith. The question is where are you putting it? And that's where most people fall trapped to is they don't put faith on truth. They put faith on their own opinion of truth. And that is breakable. True truth cannot be broken. You can't redefine it. You can't offend it. You can't go against it. I mean, I guess you can, but you feel the pain of it. Mm-hmm. And that's the focus we put people on. Now, high performers, especially the people who you're listening to, they're grinding it out on every single level. And I do not want you to think I'm saying don't get the same results. What I'm saying is we're going to get the same results with a smoother path to get exactly where you need to go. And once you get smooth, we're going to crank it back up a little bit because your capacity is at 80. Now we want to work on efficiencies. And once we can keep you at a flat 80 at capacity, we take intentionality and we start focusing on efficiencies. How do we create systems, solutions, rhythms that you can implement for yourself? And then how do you implement them for your team? And that is what I find builds big, sustainable growth in all areas of life, including your family, your friends, the community, all the parts that humans function at the highest level. We want to offer a way to do that.
What you're talking about is what professional sports teams and SEAL teams do, right? I think they're taking down an action and breaking it down into the steps to make sure that there is no waste, that there's no hesitation. Mm-hmm. Athletes have to do that when they're practicing plays. Baseball players, when they get into a slump, a hitting slump, they go back to break down their swing to see each element and slow it down as you're talking about until they've got each element of it mastered so that they can then speed it back up again on the plate. And I think what you're saying, Matt, makes a lot of sense. I think for all of us, whether in the personal or professional life, we've gotten into habits where things that we've done almost automatically without thinking about it have become bloated or have been influenced by bad habits, if you will. And you are helping people bring it back to basics and first principles to identify where the gaps are or where the hesitations are and how you can smooth the process so that by removing all of that, you end up saving time, but ultimately being able to speed them up to be more effective. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Perfectly. That's the key. It's not hard. And it's not complicated, but it takes intentionality. And when you're not intentional, you'll never experience fulfillment. I would say intentionality is a catalyst to fulfillment. No one's ever accidentally become fulfilled. We've accidentally become rich. We've accidentally become successful. Some of us have accidentally become married. No one has accidentally become fulfilled. Fulfillment takes intentionality. Fulfillment is what every human is craving, because fulfillment is when you get the true value of what it means to be a human. Then I don't need to come to Sam and get my value from Sam. I don't need to go to my wife or get my value from my wife. I understand who I am, I understand whose I am, and I understand where I'm going. And because of that, I can now operate at this level that's almost somewhat supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about this again for listeners, the things you like to do. It might not be work. It might be a hobby. How long could you do that for? Forever. And I could do it really well. When you watch kids playing video games, why do they like it so much? Because they thoroughly enjoy it. They're experiencing that dopamine kick. There is not a greater dopamine kick than the feeling of complete fulfillment in the world. And when you introduce that to somebody, nothing else will match it. No other false sense of fulfillment, no other false vice, which they think will lead to fulfillment. When you experience fulfillment in its truest form, in a simple way, the way we do it, you're always going to want to get back to it, which is why sustainability in the program works, which is why people actually apply it, and which is why our entire model, which is crazy from a business perspective, is actually we graduate all of our clients down in 6 to 12 months where they don't need us anymore. It's like a doctor trying to keep people sick. Like, that's not what we do. I want to give you the system, show you how to use it, equip you exactly how. Then we even have an entire offboarding process where we walk you through how to do this on your own without us, because our goal is to bring people to optimal performance. And once they're at optimal performance, they need to go and do all they're called to do.
I think that all makes intuitive sense. One of the challenges or tensions, especially in today's world, that many executives or financial advisors face is that they know that they need to slow down. They understand the logic of what you're talking about, but they feel that they're in environments that are rewarding speed and that are penalizing hesitation.
Yes.
How do you help someone navigate that reality, their heart, even though they may understand it in their head, that they can slow down to get fast without getting thrown out or falling behind?
Yeah, so I would say slowing down and stopping are two different things, right? Like slowing down and stopping, don't confuse those two. But what I also want you to realize is there's an element of patience. The virtue behind the word patience is sacrificially waiting to do the right thing. That's what patience is. It's not passive. It's actually very intentional. And when I work with someone who I just can't slow down, I said, don't think about it as you slowing down. That's actually an action you're taking. That's not an inaction. It is actually an action. Mm-hmm. And if you're in an environment where they're like, oh, you got to go faster, 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 that's never the case if you're getting the results. I've never heard someone say, go faster when you're getting the results you can. What I have heard is bad leadership, bad management, not knowing what they're doing. So let's say someone comes to me and says, Matt, I'm at 100% capacity. Within 4 weeks, I guarantee you, we will get them down to 80%. And here's the reason why. If your capacity is the issue, meaning you're maxed out all the time, we have to address that first. Mm-hmm. What is it that's causing you to be maxed out all the time? Well, work's really hard. The markets are up. The markets are down. I got clients who are needing boom, boom, boom. I go, okay, cool. So you have bad boundaries. That's one of the first things we do with all financial advisors is we create boundaries that they can work with. And I tell people boundaries are not made with cement. They're made with rubber. They'll get pulled at times, right? So like, if you're like, I can't talk after 5 o'clock, you're going to have a pretty rough time being a financial advisor.
Right.
Like that's a bad boundary. But the boundary is, guys, I take these type of calls Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Then if there's an emergency, I will answer it, I'll address it, and I'll probably schedule you during a 9 to 5 meeting. And it's what happens is it's like, well, but they call me at 8 o'clock at night, and I want my clients to know that I love them, and I want my clients to know that I care about them. Well, then you need to understand the difference between being nice and being kind. Nice avoids conflict, but it's actually very selfish. Kindness loves on someone enough to keep them in order. So, hey, Sam, for the sake of our relationship and the sustainability of what I do and the growth of the money I'm managing for you, I got it. It's an emergency. I'm going to address what I can now, but then we're going to have a conversation about it at this time. So I'm going to go into triage mode if needed, but that doesn't mean we have the full-blown, what happened, how are we going to fix it, no, we're going to get to that. We'll get to that over here. And that's the key with most financial professionals I work with. The first thing we do is we look at their day, we analyze their week, we break off the boundaries they don't have, and we get them comfortable saying no to things that they didn't used to be comfortable with. I can't say no to that client. You actually can, and it's not even no, it's just not right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I learned that when I was working with, I'll never forget, Home Depot. And I was a small company. They are a massive company.
Right.
And they were like, hey, we want to meet with you on Thursday at 4 o'clock. And I was like, shoot, I have like a client call at Thursday at 4 o'clock and I can't change that. But this is Home Depot. Like, what do I do? I was like, I don't even know what to do. It never crossed my mind to just ask for another time. So I sent an email back, took hours to draft, probably 3 sentences of what do I say? How do I say it? I don't want to lose this. I sent it back to them and said, hey, is it possible we can meet Thursday at 2 instead? And they're like, yeah, sure. Our schedule's open. And that was when I realized whoever has their schedule scheduled will be the one who dictates when the meetings happen. So for example, when we break up our days, I have certain time buckets that have certain things in it. So my assistant, even my wife, knows if there's something to be done in growing one of the companies or our foundation, it goes in the growth bucket. This is here for the maintenance bucket. This is here for the coaching program. And they know where things are supposed to go, and so do I. So we have different ways to give margin. Another way we create margin for those who are listening is create what I call filler time. Filler time is just an hour of the day that is yours. I do mine from 4 to 5, meaning if you try to call me at 4 to 5 and schedule an appointment, I will almost always push you to the next day. Now, if it's an emergency or a high ticket item that I want to kind of get a hold of, then yeah, I might give that time up, but it's by choice. So if I do that, I do filler time. Let's say that's 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. That's 5 hours that I get to do my time with what I need to do. And the average person that we work with when we set out their goals in our program to accomplish their goals only needs about 16 to 20 hours a week. That's in all professional and personal. Because it's not that we don't have enough time. It's that we're not using it well.
No, 100%.
And that's what we work through.
I think you're absolutely right. And again, to have a fun life, you can't eliminate all of that. But the reality of it is that most of us are probably spending a lot more time than we realize doing less critical things, but we just gotten into the habit of doing it. Now, Matt, I want to go back to fulfillment. And this is, I think, related. The idea of tying your identity to your assignment.
Yes.
Or your professional role. So whether that's being a financial advisor, an executive, or an athlete, what happens when someone builds their entire sense of self or their sense of fulfillment around, call it their professional role? And how do you help them separate who they are and what fulfills them from what they actually do?
This is one of my favorite things. This is kind of like course 3. So this is more on the accelerated side. When we come into companies, we do 3 courses. We call it our Unbreakable Workshop. But what we found is there's your identity, your calling, and your assignment. And the mistake most people make is they find their identity through what they're doing at work. What our suggestion is you use your identity to do the work you're called to do. So it's just placing them differently, right? It's not work and then identity, it's identity then work. Now, your identity never changes. Your calling never changes, but your assignments do. Right? So for example, what I feel my calling is, we have an exercise that, again, anyone wants it, we can put them through it pretty easily. But it's called, why are you here? Like, what is the reason you're here? My calling is to grow myself in order to help other people reach their full potential. So when somebody asks me to do something, I go based on my calling. Yeah, that aligns with what I'm doing. So it's not that I don't love the opportunity of real estate, but if I were to go into real estate, I'm not growing myself in order to help other people reach their full potential. Now, if I go into real estate because I want to start giving all that money towards X, Y, and Z to help other people reach their potential, I can justify it within that calling. The goal is to find a way to justify it in the calling, not lie about it. You need to be honest with it and objective about it. But most callings can fit assignments. But when you're in that identity above your calling and then your assignments, if you think of it like a triangle, when you're within the bounds of that triangle, you're protected almost from the elements of life. When you're tying your identity to your work, the second you lose that position, you're gone. Clients of ours who are doctors, they used to be Dr. Bob. Now you're just Bob.
Right.
Clients of ours who are professional athletes, everyone used to know who you were. And then every athlete we work with, they're like, it's about a year after you're done. Unless you're like a notable person, no one remembers you. Even in your hometown, it's kind of like, oh, that's that guy. Like it doesn't keep the same edge. So the problem is we need to know, what is your identity as a person? What is your calling as a person? And what are the assignments you are going to do? Your identity is who you are. Your calling is how you're going to live that out. And your assignment is what you're going to do to live out the calling. So if you think about it that way, who you are, how you do it, what you do. And then when that happens, you're okay when your assignment changes. You're okay when there's a new opportunity coming your way, and you can actually take action on it the way we should.
That makes sense. Now, related to that, and it's something that a lot of financial advisors and other professionals can probably relate to, is a lot of financial advisors have spent decades helping clients build wealth, only to realize, along the lines of what you're talking about in retirement, only to realize that their clients don't know how to enjoy it. Or
Yes.
worse, they don't know how to enjoy themselves. What would you say to someone who's built financial success but hasn't built the life or the margin that they need to actually enjoy and experience fulfillment?
Yeah. I would say what they're most likely doing is they're doing all the right or all the wrong things for the right reasons. So they're doing things I'm building it for my family. I'm building it for this. And I would say, look, take that time now and start enjoying it because we don't know if tomorrow's going to come. Right. So there's that element. That's the first thing. The second thing I would do is I would have tools to help people understand the things I'm talking about. Like, all right, client, who are you? Who are you as a person? What is it you do? How is it you do it? And walking through how that works. I have a friend of mine, Gary Baker, who has a financial practice called Undivided Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And he does that. He fully looks into his every single client and helps them understand who they are, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And then that's how he takes what he does and he helps build a financial plan to do what it is they feel they're called to do. What we feel as financial advisors that our job is supposed to just all about a return of dollar. But when we have a conversation with our clients on where do you want to go, what do you want to do, then we can put the plan together. Let's use me, for example. Because we do these exercises all the time, and our financial advisor is also a client of ours, they've gone through it, we go through it, we do it all the time. My wife and I were able to bring, hey, here's what we're looking to do in the next 10 years. And he looked at it and went, oh, that's easy. It's just a numbers game from here. In order to do that, we got to do this. The problem is most people don't know what they want. So send them to me, I'll fix it, or you find systems to figure out who they are, what they want, and how do they get the most out of what they need. From there, I think as an advisor, you will not lose a client as easily as you might if they know you understand what they want in the next 10 or 15 years. And it's clear that you understand it and that the actions you are taking are trying to get them there. If you don't know who they are, you don't know what they want, and you're just getting returns, it's a commodity issue. You are a commodity. And the second they can find a better return elsewhere, they're going to leave. And why shouldn't they if that's all they're getting?
Look, I think this goes back to your comment that you made earlier about AI is going to make everybody efficient, but it isn't going to remove the human component. And I would tie what you just said to Simon Sinek's famous The Golden Circle, the why. And I think that financial planning, financial advice ends up becoming what do you do and how do you do it? But if you don't start with the why do you want to save for retirement? Why do you need this much for retirement? Why do you want to send your kids to this kind of a school instead of that kind of school? I think those are conversations that help ground that relationship, help ground the plan. But more importantly, I think you're enabling the client to actually articulate for themselves the identity and the fulfillment and the margin and everything else that you talked about, so that when you provide the ultimate solution, there's a mapping between what you're proposing as a solution and what they themselves identified as the problem that they're looking to solve.
Yeah, and we've even come into other financial advisors to do this for their clients, specifically because once their client knows what they want versus, hey, the world's told me we're supposed to do this and this and this, and we're supposed to do this, like that doesn't necessarily actually fulfill the individual. That's just them going into the rat race like everybody else.
Correct.
So then what you have as an advisor is you have a false guide from the source itself, which leads you to fail the desired outcome at the end. So like that's why I said technology makes you more efficient, not more effective. Because if you put bad into technology, you get bad out. So your client gives bad information to you, you get bad out. A great story of this was my daughter Natalie has an extremely rare medical condition, right? She's the 17th person to ever have it, youngest by far, and her muscles just don't work. So she's been in a wheelchair her whole life, has a lot of health issues because of it. Absolute blessing to have her. Literally has changed my life in a very positive, hard, but positive way. Natalie, Thanksgiving 2019, she had major breathing issues. We brought her to the hospital. Her oxygen levels were down in the 60s. She needed to get medevaced over to the hospital. We get off the airplane. We were up in Philadelphia, where I'm originally from. And the doctor comes in, Natalie's intubated, she's unconscious. And he goes, "Hey, what's her condition?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. Like, we don't know." And he's like, "All right, well, what do you want me to do?" I was like, I don't know. I said, "Go to this website." And it was helpnatg.com. And it was basically all of Natalie's medical records, because what I was going to do on that Thanksgiving was send a blast out to everyone saying, "Hey, everyone who's having dinner with your aunt doctor and uncle doctor, show this to them. Do they have any idea what's going on with her?" Because she was undiagnosed at the time. I sent him to the website. He comes back with tears in his eyes. I said, "What?" I said, I thought he was going to tell me she wasn't going to make it. He said, "No." He said, "Where'd you get that website?" I said, "I made it." He goes, I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I was about to give her a drug that would have put her in a coma at best or killed her at worst. Wow. And when I saw the conditions of what you were working with an underlying neuromuscular condition, I changed and gave her a different sedative." I said, "Well, that's great news. Why are we crying?" And he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, "We would have saved more lives last week." Here's the story behind it and the lesson that I learned. Parents want what's best for their kids, but sometimes they can't give good information to the doctors, so the doctors know what to do. The want good is not enough. You must understand who you are and what you're called to do, your purpose here. Then you'll understand what you're going to do with the riches and the monies of the world. If you don't have that first part, you're going to fall trapped to what the world tells you you're supposed to do. And as a financial advisor, your people are going to give you bad information, thinking they're giving you good information, and it's going to lead you down the wrong path. It happens with employees all the time, right? If you have a staff, what do you want? "I want more money." No, you don't. I've given you more money. It doesn't do anything. What do you want? "I just want to be able to spend time with my kids. I want to be able to cover the expense of daycare." Interesting. Let's work on a way to cover the expense of daycare, not just give you more money.
Right.
And we create what we call motivational packages because of that, because it forces people to think, what do you want? And it gives us as leaders, or us as even advisors, the ability to serve in the way we're called to serve, which is what everyone really wants to do. We just found a simple way to do it by asking 9 questions, talking about 3 of them in the beginning of the week, and allowing yourself to be exposed to truth leading to tension, which then leads to transformation. And when you experience transformation and you experience fulfillment, how to make the path and what the end result is, and people do amazing things when they hit that level of understanding.
Wow, Matt, that's a very powerful story with your daughter, and how you tied it to a positive lesson that can be applied to teams and people. Thank you for that. We're
Appreciate it.
Coming to the end of our podcast, so I have a few final rapid fire questions for you.
Cool.
So number 1, professionally, what is the most important lesson you've learned over the years?
Patience. And I'm still waiting.
Me too.
And what I mean by that in patience is being okay in the wait, recognizing that the wait is good. We're not in a rush like we think we are. We're not in as much control as we think we are. My actions don't always produce the results. We did an event. Every year we do an event called Realign, which is a small exclusive event. I think it's happening in November this year. The last one we did, it's for high-level executives, entrepreneurs, and professional athletes. And we put a ton of money into marketing. And 0 of our people who came from marketing. It sold out. It wasn't by my efforts. It sold out. And the reality of it is I lost tens of thousands of dollars that would have just been profit, because I wanted to pay. I wanted to make it bigger than it needed to be. And it's that element of being okay, sitting back and going, all right, what am I supposed to do? Let me think on this first. Now, we're doing an event. We're charging thousands of dollars to do it. We better market it. We better put it out there. We better push. All of that pushing was done in vain. It didn't convert a single person to come. What converted someone to come were clients of ours telling friends of theirs, you need to be in this room to learn this stuff.
Right.
So all that being said, I want to grow the company. Let's go. What we do is we take action thinking that's going to do it versus stop, think, be strategic, and only do the next right step. Don't try to run towards the goal without having an idea of what's down in front of you.
Well, I like that. And I think for me, I'm still waiting for patience. And I think you're right. I think that the only learning I can say that I've taken a bit forward is to be okay waiting, right? That, sometimes, as you say, while you're waiting for something to happen, it actually solves itself, or another path opens up. And so that patience, or that ability to sit and not want immediate gratification, actually pays off in the end.
And here's the pushback that I'll get, which is understandable. Oh, but what if it's an emergency? Don't allow the infrequent moments to become your method of operation. Like if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. But don't allow life to be the way you work. So like there's emergencies where my daughter stops breathing. We need to get
Right.
her to the hospital
Right.
now.
Right.
There's been times where she's died and come back to life. There's been times where we've had to do CPR while the ambulance was getting, like there's been a lot of stuff that we've had to go through with my daughter. But in that situation, that's not how we function regularly. In those moments, it's a rush. I'm on her. My wife is packing up and grabbing the other kid. And my 4-year-old son at the time, he's now 7, because that's when this whole thing really started. He knows he's the one who gets the door and welcomes the firefighters in. So when you have a system that is set up to deal with the emergency, you don't have to be in emergent mode all the time.
And I think that having that system, to take that analogy further, it also gives you that critical insight, the critical mind to be able to distinguish what is an emergency and what is not, right? I mean, if you define everything as an emergency, you're not ready to deal with what is really an emergency.
And
right?
That's the issue. We sit there and go, well, life's just hard. It's a financial world. Things change all the time. Not all the time. Markets close at sometimes, right? So like it's not all the time. It's a lot of the time, and it's variable. And there are some times where, certain political leader makes a certain decision. Now all of a sudden things go boom. That's an emergency, but it's not.
But they're a lot
all
more
the time.
infrequent than we give, than we think.
And it goes back to the dieting concept of we let those minority parts, the 20% that's unknown, act as if it's our whole life.
Correct.
And what I tell people is 80% of your life you can't plan, 20% you can. If you don't take care of the 80, that 20 is going to feel like 100. When my daughter goes into the hospital, it's amazing. Like I said, we've gone everything from a common cold to she's not breathing for 20 minutes. We got to bring her back, right? Like we've dealt with it all. The condition of her is not what leads to the difficulty of the hospital stay. The difficulty of the hospital stays is positively correlated to the ability of my wife and I to be on the same page on the 80% of what we can control. If that 80% is out of whack and she goes to the hospital, it's a really hard hospital stay.
Right.
If that 80% is intact, we go to the hospital, it's just uncomfortable because I sleep on a bed I don't like. Does that make sense? So like, it's 100%. Not the actual severity of the issue that causes it. It's the lack of control of what we can control that makes even the smallest issue unbearable.
Makes total sense. Matt, second question. What is one practical tip you would offer listeners keen on applying your insights?
One practical tip would be to live your life 1 week at a time. Plan weekly, act daily. What I mean by that is that the week is 7 days, and we call it 7-day planning. When you focus your life on weeks, you can actually input change. When you focus your life on days are too short, months are too long. Hey, I'm going to do this month. You're going to wait till the last week anyway. I'm going to do it today. Something pops up, 20%. You might not know. It's going to throw you off. When you function on a weekly basis, which is why our planner is always on a weekly basis, we plan the week, we act accordingly each day. If something is supposed to happen on Monday and something comes up to throw you off, you can move it to Tuesday. You can move it to Thursday. You can move it to Friday.
Right.
The ability to be linear and have the structure of a finite end date. Hey, you got to get this done this week. With the ability of punting things to another week and the understanding of we have the flexibility to move. That's what you need to have a sustainable system in today's world. A balance of structure and flexibility that works around what you're trying to do, not you trying to force your life into this system.
I love it. Matt, if listeners want to learn more about you or find out about your work, where do they go?
Let's do this. We'll do two things. Go to any of the social media platforms. Life Pulse Inc. is the handle. We're big on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Matt87 Granados on LinkedIn, as well as Life Pulse on LinkedIn. You can also go to our website, lifepulseinc.com. There's a free consultation you can actually get access to. If you just fill out a form, we can help you out with that. And then the other thing is, Sam, what's the acronym for this podcast title?
TheUncertaintyEdge.com.
Got you. So TUE. And we'll do lifepulseinc.com/TUE, and we'll put some of the resources I talked about up there that your people can get at a discount if they listen to it. And it'll be TUE will be the acronym for it.
Awesome. Listen, this has been a fascinating conversation, Matt. Thank you for joining us today on the Uncertainty Edge podcast.
Always happy to be here. Thank you.
In this episode of the Uncertainty Edge podcast, I spoke with Matt Granados, CEO and founder of Life Pulse Inc., about why most high performers are operating well below their true potential and what it actually takes to fix that. Here are my 3 key takeaways. Number 1, stop treating symptoms and start finding the cause. Most performance problems, whether in a team, a practice, or a personal routine, stem from root causes that never get addressed. Matt's analogy says it all. Giving someone painkillers for a broken bone might ease the pain, but it doesn't set the bone. Advisors and executives who keep reaching for quick fixes will keep cycling through the same struggles. The harder, more valuable work is identifying what's actually broken beneath the surface. Number 2, high performance is overrated. Optimal performance should be the goal. Matt makes a powerful distinction between high performers who produce a lot at an unsustainable pace and optimal performers who produce at a high level, consistently and without burning out. His target is 80% of capacity because that's where fulfillment lives and where there's still room to surge when it matters. For listeners running at full throttle all the time, this reframe isn't an invitation to slow down. It's an invitation to build lasting capacity. Number 3, identity before assignment. When professionals tie their entire sense of self to their role, their title, their client book, their production numbers, they become fragile. Matt's framework flips the order. Know who you are first, then let that identity drive the work you do. For advisors helping clients navigate retirement or major transitions, this is a reminder that the most meaningful planning conversations start not with numbers, but with the question of who someone is and what they're actually building toward. Matt reminds us that fulfillment isn't accidental, it's intentional. Leaders who understand that about themselves will be far better equipped to help their teams discover the same truth. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Uncertainty Edge. If today's conversation sparked something, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You'll get practical tools, deeper insights, and new episodes every other Tuesday. Please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter at theuncertaintyedge.com.